Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. We're very excited to have our restoration and recovery webinar. I love doing these, and I've got three wonderful women on with a ton of experience in a variety of areas, so I'm very excited about this. I'm Sara Kooperman. I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness Education and WATERinMOTION. And I'm going to ask you all to please move your mouse. Y'all know the drill by now. Go down to where you see that green share button. Go down there, go to the left of it. You'll see the chat box. Please click on it and know that this is the place that you can ask questions, make comments, suggestions, and direct our webinar. We love to hear from you. Please type your name in. We usually know it from your Zoom name. And then also, if you'd be so kind as tell us where you're from. So I'm going to type in first, and I'm going to say, hi from Chicago. All right. So, oh, wonderful. We got somebody from Pennsylvania. Please, you guys fill it out. We've got people from Ohio and nobody else. No.
Yay, Yankton, South Dakota. I know them.
You know them? That's a little scary. I would never admit that in public. Kansas
They're
City,
awesome.
New York City. I know. I'm sorry, South Dakota. Sorry. I guess that's Aaron's iPhone. And Maryland. We've got Texas. We got Pennsylvania. So we're really thrilled to have you guys here. We're going to be talking about that it's easy for HIIT classes, Group X classes, to come to the forefront of our fitness offerings. This is what we think about. We have to work out hard. We have to work out often, but we need the proper rest and recovery phases so that we can reap the full benefits of these high intensity classes. And the consensus in the fitness industry is that proper recovery is a crucial component that cannot be overlooked. And it's great for us to do these tough workouts. Now, today we have Irene Mccormick with us. She's an Fitness Instructor of the Year, a twice published author for Human Kinetics. She's the creator of our SCW Practical Approach to Recovery and Rolling certification. We have the wonderful Ronnie Fulton, who also has a couple articles to share with us, which I'm excited about. And she's the creator of the popular Group X formats, I Restore Yoga and Rollmassage. We're very excited about that. And then she combines her knowledge as a licensed massage therapist and a movement specialist and a registered yoga instructor and lifestyle fitness coach. What else don't you do, Ronnie? And she's a very results-driven restorative style class instructor. And then we have the gorgeous Barbie Brown. She's to say that 3 times, right? She's, oh, now I get to go, a mashup master trainer, mashup master trainer, mashup master, okay. And has a background in business administration. She's not only beautiful, she's smart and marketing, and she's a certified lifestyle coach and AFA personal trainer and group exercise instructor. And I'm joking. Oh my God, COVID. No, just kidding, just kidding.
No.
I know. So Barbie, I'm going to start with you. How often should you incorporate rest, recovery, or restorative methods into your client's schedule?
Really, honestly, as often as possible. In an ideal world, you would do some at the beginning of the workout, you know, with the movement prep and some dynamic stretching. You would do some static stretching at the end of a workout, and then you would take at least 1 day a week for mobility and stability, working on flexibility and balance and giving your body a chance to recover. So that's in the perfect world, in an ideal situation. And of course, whenever you are feeling extra tight or you have an injury, paying special attention to those areas and muscles that need that extra TLC.
Now, what's interesting is, honestly, I find that, I'm choking again. I find that interesting because your workouts are really tough. And I always think of you as this high intensity, you know, give it your all, injure whatever you can, go for it, girl. I'm sorry, that's pretty rude, but whatever, it's honest. But I love what you're saying, because it's that important. Recovery is that important. And Ronnie, what do you do? I mean, you've got these amazing programs, the Roll-Massage and the iRestore yoga. And I think they're so timely nowadays. And how did you develop that?
Yeah, that was based on my experience, as a licensed massage therapist and personal trainer, and realizing that, like the other ladies on the panel here, we want to get the best results for our clients. And part of that is helping them to be injury-free and recovering from the stress of working out. And so realizing as a massage therapist, I couldn't massage everybody every day. And actually that wasn't necessary, but teaching them how to learn to massage themselves and take care of their muscles. So from that passion or that desire, Roll-Massage was created, which is a style of foam rolling or a muscle care workout. And as that grew in popularity, we realized that we needed to help people to increase their mobility and flexibility. And then iRestore was created.
That's interesting because my kids, I've got 4 boys. I've got a 23, 25, 27, and 29-year-old, almost 30-year-old. Oh my God, it's horrifying. But they all foam roll, and they use these hard foam rollers, and they're rolling all that. They're like, Mom, come on, come on, come on. So I went down and I foam rolled with them. The next morning, I was bruised. And I thought, and when I saw your program, I thought, this is what I need. It should be a massage. It shouldn't be, I understand that there's discomfort involved in this, but I also really was impressed with the balance aspect of it all. So how did you go from massaging an individual? You obviously know muscles, connective tissue, fascia, to evolving this so people can self-massage.
Yep. I took my knowledge as a neuromuscular therapist, and I literally took the protocols and used foam rollers and balls and just different things that are out in the market. And I attempted to mimic exactly what I would do in session with a tool. And to your point, when it comes to self-myofascial rolling, it's not about the harder the better. It's about embracing our body with love, and patience. And the philosophy is not, we're going to mash the pain out of the muscle, roll, and that can sometimes be what some people believe. So it is definitely working within the body and allowing the body to make the change.
Oh, I love that. I think my kids were just trying to abuse their mother. That's what I
I hope not, but hey, you never know.
Well, you never met my family, so there you go. All right, and Irene, you are the queen of foam rolling. I've never seen a session at Mania. Irene will do the last session of the day, usually on Saturday when everybody feels like they're almost crippled. Yeah, and I've never seen like 200 people rolling. It's kind of crazy. So, well, how did you start doing this?
It's so interesting. I had kind of an opportunity to work with an NFL team in the Minnesota area. I'll let you make your own guesses. For about 16 months. And that was in early 2000s. And that is where I was introduced to rolling. And they had to use really thick, dense rollers, sometimes wood. That's where you'd see the PVC piping, because you're dealing with tissue that's really strong when you're dealing with athletes at that level. Most of our consumer clients do not need that type of pressure. In fact, one of the reasons, and what I really highlight in the SCW, the scientific approach to rolling and recovery, is I'm going to talk about the difference between foam rolling and self-myofascial release. I've got a roller right here that looks horrifyingly scary, but I am telling you right now, this roller is so much more effective and way more gentle, because it has, and there's lots of things on the market that have great, you know, there's benefits to percussive instruments, but there's also some risks. And that's what we want people to know, because these tools are available in studios and our consumer clients are picking them up and they're getting hurt. And they think that they should just get on that IT band and roll until it's bleeding. And they just don't understand like the layers of fascia and physiologically how it really works. So we have a lot of opportunity to get them educated. And if they get educated, they can make their own decisions. And it's a lot easier to incorporate not only release type or any recovery type activities into a fitness class, but we can teach them to do it on their own too.
Oh, that's great. And Barbie, how do you interface your recovery into your mashup program? Like, what's the balance that you try to attain?
So with Mashup, we're also a certification program that we do through SCW. It is a variable intensity interval training. You know, we know HIIT. We love HIIT. We really love HIIT, but we overdo it. And in overdoing it, we turn HIIT into simply high volume training, and we lose a lot of the benefit. So in a class like Mashup, we rotate between medium intensity, that's usually some kind of weight training. Then we go really high intensity with periods of just complete and utter rest. And then we always do a block of low intensity, and that's our mind body. So right after you have skyrocketed that heart rate, you have an opportunity to build in that active recovery right after doing it. So you have a chance to stretch out what you just used, of course, dynamically. We don't do static stretching in the middle of a workout, but we can focus on balance. We can bring the heart rate down. We can let the body's energy systems replenish themselves so that we have an opportunity to take it back up and really get the benefits of these high intensity workouts without frying their central nervous system, but giving them a chance to really get the rest so that we can keep asking high levels of work from them to make for a more safe and more effective workout.
Yeah, and I like you said, so it can replenish itself. It's not just about recovery and restore. It's
right.
It using that, it'll help replenish. And that's very, very important. Now, do you use like timed intervals with your program? How do you do your time?
So all of the intervals, whether it's high, medium, or low, they're all 1 minute. So you have 1 minute blocks of strength, and depending on which format you do, it's 5 minutes, 2 minutes, or 15 minutes of strength, followed by that block of high intensity, which is, you know, the 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. But then you have that mind body right after. And so again, depending on the format, it's either a short, like a 1 minute block, or it's a 5 minute block, or a 15-minute block. But because it's built right into the program, you're not going to have those people, you know how it's like 5 minutes before and you start doing your cool down, and then you have those people who pack up and leave. Well, because it's built right into the workout, they're doing it throughout the workout. So we're trying to educate them that, excuse me, that the active recovery doesn't have to happen at the very end. We can sprinkle it through there. And in fact, it's more beneficial to sprinkle those intervals in there. So once again, we can demand higher levels of work. And
I love that, because you can demand the higher levels of work, but also you get that flexibility. Because people, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say, I think I was doing true confessions here before we turned on the camera, where I was saying I'll do my strength training and I'll follow a video. I'm a Les Mills body pump person. All right, so I'm following this video on the TV, and I've got a webinar that I'm listening to on my computer. So I silence the TV and I'm listening to the webinar. And right before the cool down, I'm like, I gotta go. I'm shutting this thing off, and I'm running upstairs, and my husband wants to eat dinner and blah, blah, blah. So I feel guilty. But if I sprinkle it in my workout, I think that's a very interesting idea. And then the following day, what I'll do is I'll do my full yoga class. Now, Ronnie, what are your thoughts on incorporating that rest and recovery into a client schedule or a class schedule.
Yeah, totally agree with Barbie. And there's actually a research study that ACE documented that supports the concept of integrating it into your interval training. So they have a study that found, excuse me, athletes who ran or cycled until the point of fatigue recovered faster when they continued at just 50% of their maximum effort versus those who stopped completely. So there is the science, there is research that is supporting that concept of integrating the active recovery within the actual workout. So that is one of the ways, of course, I would encourage that as well. And in addition, you can incorporate it into the cool down to the end of the workout, which is, common in a lot of programs as well.
And what about heating the body up? I'm old school. I was always taught you warm the body up gradually, and then you do a little stretching, and then you go in and you can get a higher intensity. What are your thoughts on that? Or did you see anything in the studies on that?
That study didn't speak to that necessarily, but definitely support the notion of warming up the body properly through dynamic movement so that you can minimize injury and ideally perform better. But it is more of a safety, minimizing the likelihood that you're going to injure the muscles and or the joints.
Mm-hmm. So I've always been confused by starting a yoga class where you're just sitting there and breathing. Now I have raced like a bat out of somewhere, right? To get to the darn class, whipped my boots off because I live in Chicago. It's already 47 degrees outside. Whipped my boots off, stripped down to my tights, and I'm getting ready to do class, and then they want me to breathe. And I'm like, I am warm. Let's move. I'm ready to stretch. But I think maybe that's the, Irene, I see you laughing, but I think it's like, maybe it's that restore, shift your mind.
Well, this is really important. And it's super easy. I teach this as part of the training, the SCW fitness training, because I want people to learn the science, but if they can't plug in practically the science, that's not very helpful. So what I do a lot with my group training clients, which is different than group fitness, they come in and I've taught them all because it's really easy. We do 3 releases and then they do some mobility movement before we start our workout. So it's supervised, but at the same time, they're doing it on their own. I'm just using SGT techniques. So they do a foot release with just a tennis ball.
I'm just going to define, you guys, SGT is small group training. I say that because I'm the moron that didn't figure that out in one of my own webinars.
It's a relatively new term in the industry, but it's really important to notice it and to understand how to operate it, because it's not the same thing as teaching Group X and it's not the same thing as personal training, but I digress. However, you do need the group training techniques when you are teaching foam rolling because people need individual feedback. So I was just going to take you back the really quick. I just use a tennis ball, or they can bring their own balls. With COVID, we have to be a lot more cognizant, but they do a very quick foot release, and then they do an Achilles tendon release. And then if they feel like it and they're up for it, just depending on how they feel, they do either a piriformis release, or they can do their VMO, the vastus medialis, just as long as they don't get on the knee. And it's good. They get to chat with one another. So they're still being productive. It doesn't hurt. And it really sets them up, because exercise like that involves triple flexion and triple extension. And that's the ankle, the knee, and the hip. Let's get them ready. Let's make it part of the mobility. You can use a foam roller. You can use a ball. It doesn't have to be expensive. And it's pretty easy.
That's interesting. Do you have equipment that you prefer, Ronnie, and when you're training, or Barbie? Ronnie, what do you type of equipment? Do you use a typical foam roller or the tennis balls like Irene was chatting about?
I use variety. So it, like I said, it's a very personal thing. I don't believe that there's one tool that works for every single body. Also that our muscles have different lengths, different densities. So what may work well for vastus lateralis may not work well for anterior deltoid. So I am extremely passionate about integrating various tools. So I do use a foam roller. I like the 36-inch foam roller if I had to choose just one, because it allows me to do the spinal mobilization moves, but it's not necessarily one density that's for everybody, right? So I focus on having options, because I do, when I teach classes, I have people of different backgrounds. You know, I have the weekend warriors, and then I have my active aging population and everybody in between. I do use tennis balls, various therapy balls, different handheld tools, the massage handheld rollers. So definitely more of a holistic approach to it based on what my clients and my group needs.
And do you use any of the vibrating foam rollers or the percussion machines? And do you integrate that into your programming?
I don't integrate that into the Rollosage and iRestore programs, because those are Group X style formats. But in private practice, when I work with people one-on-one, I do use a percussive tool, often for the glutes, to help out with piriformis. And I find them to be very beneficial. But as Irene spoke earlier, there are benefits to it, but there's also things that you need to be mindful and careful of as well. So again, it's consistent. It's not a one size fits all. It is us as professionals knowing the tools and understanding ourselves and being very responsible as we educate our clients and our students.
Yeah. What are the things you have to be careful of?
It's like intensity, right? So people, the percussive tools in general, they are a more aggressive approach to releasing the muscles, which can be good if necessary. But if someone has an injury or someone has various conditions, it can be too much, and it can be overly stimulating instead of sedating, which is what we want. So.
And you know what, Ronnie, I'm going to add into what you just said. And I bet you see this, I'm sure, when people have access to like there's a lot of different brands. I won't name any, but the percussive, and they can really change the intensity. People don't really understand what they're doing, and they can get bruised.
Exactly.
They get really bad delayed onset muscle soreness. And in the moment, it feels amazing, but they walk away, they're like, oh my God, what did I do to my neck or my shoulder? So that's really a kind of a danger we need to really educate people on.
And I totally agree with Irene on that. We seem to have still that, go hard, approach to everything, the harder the better. And sometimes we see that in that same attitude in active recovery. So we get those machines, like Irene said, it's just, and we end up injured or, other challenges.
And that is such a fitness mentality. This sounds kind of crazy, but I just started taking pickleball lessons. Okay. I know, Irene, you're laughing at me.
It's super popula.
Oh my God. I'm going to move to Florida and kick butt.
Yes.
I'm in a class with a bunch of 70-year-olds. Now I'm 61, so I'm the young one, and I'm racing for the ball, and I'm diving, and I fell so hard. It is. Nanette just said it's the best sport. It is so fun. And I fell back, and I was scared about banging my head, so I landed on my wrist, landed on my butt, and then I thought, I'll do I won't use the name either, the piece of equipment, but the vibrating thing on my hip, I think it worsened everything the next day. So I think we've got to be careful with how we do these things. And Barbie, what type of equipment? I think you're also, when you do the restore part of the mashup workout, I think if I recall, a lot of it's based on yoga.
Yes, we use a lot of what you would traditionally think of as like yoga and Pilates types of exercises. And again, because it's built into a group fitness format and it's layered in, we don't do anything static because, we don't want them to be holding anything. We don't want them overly stretched. And then of course, we're going to demand big things from them again. So we do, dynamic stretching. You'll see something like, maybe a down dog into a plank. You might see you know, some kind of like a boat pose or a Pilates 100, or, you know, a little combination like a tree to an airplane type of thing. So, but then, you know, we may do things with towels. Sometimes we'll incorporate some towels to get, you know, some stretching as we are doing other movements. But because of the nature of that, we don't do any of like the rollers or the balls or the gun or anything like that. I use that sort of stuff in my personal training, and I'm a big fan of it. And I can't possibly say anything that Ronnie and Irene haven't already mentioned about just different people respond to different things, different, you know, what works for this client doesn't work for this client, even though they have a lot of the same issues. They're still different people. So, you know, just being flexible in your thought process, and just because this is the way that you use it and you like it doesn't mean that your clients are going to respond the same way. So just being flexible to, you know, learning new things, and do your homework and make sure that you know what you're talking about when you go in there, so you don't hurt them and you educate them. When they are better educated, they move better, they feel better, and they trust you. And of course, that's,
And
you know,
what was
we
that
want that.
saying you said before about education?
Education drives compliance.
And
That is my training philosophy 100%, because so often, like I'd mentioned before, you know, the last 5 minutes of class, you start doing, you know, some ab work and you start stretching it out, and people pack up and they leave because they don't value the few minutes of stretching and recovery we're putting in at the end of the workout. So when I take time to discuss with them why we do this, we're stretching this muscle group because this is the exercise that we did. We are taking some time to work on this. You know, this is a flexibility move or a balancing move, as, you know, we stretch the hip and do a standing figure 4 stretch. You know, not only are we stretching your hip and glute, but we're also working on a little bit of balance. And hey, did you know that science has made a leap between balance and memory? So the better your balance, the better your memory. And we could all use some better memory. So, you know, throwing out things like that. So yeah, I'm getting some head nodding. So throwing in things like that intrigue them and make them understand that this is an important part of the program. It's not just something I throw in at the end just because I'm out of ideas. This is very purposeful. This is very intentional. And it's in here because it's good for you. So I'm big on education, and try to throw other fun things like my balance tip, throwing other things in there so they're not hearing the same thing over and over. But it's like, hey, I don't necessarily care about balance, but the whole balance and memory thing, that's pretty cool.
right. And then they value it, and then they perform it. And Ronnie, you were nodding. You have more science that you were going to share with us. Irene or Ronnie, do you have you read any research on the link between balance and memory? I almost forgot what this is.
You know, I haven't actually looked at research on balance and memory, but there is a lot of research right now coming out, which is so important. And just to piggyback on what Barbie was just talking about, that's one of the reasons, seriously, Sarah, I have had people that when we first started the foam roller certification, remember we started that like 2 or 3 years ago, we get like 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 people. And what people would say, fitness professionals would go, what do I need to know about rolling around on the floor? I'm going to come to an 8-hour training and learn how to roll on the floor. And I'm like, listen, there is so much to learn, like Barbie and both Ronnie were saying. It's such an individualized program, and you as a fitness professional, you got to know how to learn. You got to learn how to use the tools that are out there, because our members are grabbing tools that are completely appropriate for what their goals are, because they don't understand the SAID principle, and they also don't understand, you know, the organelles that the skin is receiving, these pain receptors, and then it goes into the layer of fascia, and it does all these things physiologically that looks from the outside like we're just rolling around on the floor. So this is one of the reasons I think that the rolling and recovery cert is so important. And of course, I'm going to bring the most current science. The studies that I have, the most current I can find are 2018, which is pretty current because it takes a little bit of time to get those research studies out there.
And Ronnie, you got that research study from ACE. Do you by any chance have the link to that?
Let's see.
But you don't worry about it now. I don't need to distract you right now. What we'll do is we provide always a recording of the webinar. And what we'll do is we'll post the recording tomorrow afternoon. Usually Mike Lieber, who's a wonderful person, who's our cinematographer, who's running this webinar for us right now, we'll put the link in. So Ronnie, just sometime tonight, if you can scoot it over to me or scoot it over, to one of our team, that would be great. And we'll make sure we publish it, for you so you guys can see it. ACE is very generous about allowing us to republish articles. I think there was another article that you were going to reference from, I think it was NASM, right, Ronnie?
Correct. And I'll be very happy to share those, and just piggybacking off of what Irene was saying, we always want to look at the research, the science behind it, right? And as I've been doing my roll massage class for 7 years now. And I know we've been foam rolling as an industry way before that. And of course, a lot of the arguments that, or the kind of pushback I would get as far as, do I need to foam roll, is where's the research? How can you prove to me that it's beneficial? And that's a legitimate question. We should always question the science behind new trends and fads and so forth. Is it really working? And the exciting thing is that we are getting more research studies that are coming out to where we can specifically say, hey, this is proven to give you this types of effect, and this is why you should do it. So I'm more than happy to share those 2 links with you so that we do have more of the science behind it. And Irene has a lot of the science behind it in her foam rolling cert as well.
It was interesting. I do a class at Mania's, and I was asked to do the class. I actually wasn't asked to do the class. I was told to do the class by a friend of mine, because my kids were brutally terrible people that I gave life to. Anyway, that they abused me so much, they said, how do you foam roll for active agers? So I developed a class called No Place Like Foam. And it's for older adults. And I actually had to do research. And Ronnie, what I looked at was stuff you're talking about, massage, all the massage articles that dealt with active agers. Make sure it's a comfortable environment. It needs to be warm. It needs to be a shorter, the massage needs to be not as deep. And it also needs to be shortened in the length of time. And then I also looked at flexibility research, which ballistic movements, rather than a static movement, tended to work a little bit better on an older clientele. So because there was no research on active aging and foam rolling. So I had to interface how to foam roll for an active ager. So what we did was, instead of using like you were talking about, Irene, the wood. Oh my God, that's what my kids were probably rolling on. The black foam roller, like it's black for a reason, because my blood has dried on it. But I use the white one, which is more porous and collapses more. And then I don't even have to use the 6-inch foam roller. I can use the 3-inch, a smaller foam roller. And that was Person and Kim Garcia actually recommended that to me. And by having it be smaller, it was a little bit more flexible and less intense. So reducing the length of time that I would foam roll, reducing the length of hold I did on particular fascia, really made it more comfortable. But again, I couldn't find any research on active aging and foam rolling, but I did see it for athletes. We just lost Irene. But I was going to say, Irene, what you dealt with athletes, what are your thoughts on training athletes? Because we're, schools are closed. We're going to get these high schoolers taking programs with us.
Well, I think it's really important for them to know why they're doing this. And there's quite a few reasons. It kind of depends. It's also important to understand there is a difference between the techniques that you use when you foam roll versus the techniques that you use when you do self-myofascial release. I bet Ronnie is really good at self-myofascial release because it takes time and it takes a lot of pressure. It's really, and that's why we use tools. And I held this one up before. And these little balls that you'll find, see, people are finding these tools. They don't really know what to do with them. So helping them understand, maybe you're rolling to decrease the incidence of delayed onset muscle soreness. Maybe you're rolling to decrease some pain, tightness, or some restrictions in your joint range of motion. So the tool you use is really going to dictate the outcome goal. And again, there's not a ton of education that has been done and conducted. And it's so interesting. Here's what I really want my clients to understand. The exercise is the stimulus. It's super important and we need it. But man, oh man, the recovery, that's the magic. That's when everything you want to have happen in your fitness program, that's when it happens. Sleep, your nutrition, your post-recovery nutrition, hydration. Are you taking BCAAs? Are you getting the right amount of protein? Are you under massive amounts of stress? Do you have predisposition towards certain disease conditions? All of that will interfere, support, or detract from recovery. So I really like to find out through rapport building what they need. And then based on that, and based on my research on what all the tools do and what I have available to me, and this stuff's cheap. I mean, there are things like right now, Sara, I don't know if you have any foam rollers available, but the compression roller that you have through the SCW Fitness store, they're inexpensive and they're super effective. Ronnie had mentioned spinal alignment. That's awesome. It's a great way for mobility and a warm up.
You know, it's funny. I loved my 3-inch foam roller as opposed to the 6-inch. So I was doing it and I would have half the class use the bigger foam roller and then the other half of the class use the smaller one and then switch. And it was great. I'm like sitting here, I'm such a bad salesperson. Would you put the link in, Mike Lieber, into the store?
He already did.
He did he? Oh, good. Of course he did, because he's smarter.
Of course he did.
So, but the nice thing is everything's half price. So all the products are half price.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah. And what's good is, now this also, I'm trying to help you guys in COVID. You're training and you're teaching out of your home. So buy the products at half price, and guess what? Sell it to your client at full price and send your kids to college. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. All right. There's nothing wrong with that. And that was part of our thinking in this whole process, because if we don't get this ancillary revenue, this extra revenue coming in as trainers, that's going to be hard to do. Now, Barbie, are you running your mashup classes online right now?
Mm-hmm.
So you're running them like, is it almost the same schedule that you were running pre-COVID, or how did you adapt to do it live stream?
Well, whoa, sorry, kicked over my water. Just like everybody else, I've had to adapt. My gym closed and was not able to reopen. And so because I'm a master trainer for Mashup, I'm doing it, through Mashup, but I'm offering just one a week right now. And we have some of the other master trainers that everybody's kind of picked a time slot that we're doing. So, like everybody else, having to adapt and adjust and, we do some things just because
do you open up the mashup classes to like an instructor? Like, can they
everyone can do them right now during COVID?
Oh, cool.
We are offering it to everyone absolutely free. So if they go to the website, which is mashupconditioning.com, or they can find us on Facebook, and we have a schedule of different classes that we offer. They're all completely free.
Mashupconditioning.com. Again, Mike's probably going to find it and put it in before I even ask him to. The one thing I do want to encourage, this is me being like mom business owner here, but you guys, we're going to be in COVID for months and months. Okay. So you guys y'all have to think how to charge, because 30% of our clubs, our boutique studios, are not going to open. All right. And then the studios, the clubs that are opening, okay, the clubs that are opening are only going to be they started about 40% capacity, and they're going to go up to about 80% capacity. So there's going to be like 20% of us either teaching less or not teaching at all, training less or not training at all through the facility. So I'm encouraging all of you, whatever entrepreneurial spirit you have, come on now. You're used to putting on a microphone and telling people what to do. Go and do and think about charging for those things, because we need to do this. And Ronnie, you were smiling at that. Are you training people also virtually?
Yes. So I teach classes online. I have a Wednesday and Friday 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time class. And then starting in November, we'll add an additional one Sunday at 10 a.m. So I train group exercise online right now. And I also have my one-on-one sessions as well.
Wonderful. And I'm just going to ask for the one-on-one sessions, because I'm sure they involve, of course, the recovery, the restoring. What do you charge for those? I know I'm getting a little bit off here, but everybody seems to be interested in that.
Yeah, I charge $95 for the hour. So I specialize in recovery. So all of my personal one-on-one clients are people who have injuries. So I'm teaching them corrective exercise, mobility drills, flexibility, of course, using foam rolling, self-myofascial release, just speaking to their particular condition. But that's
so. Interestingly enough, you have not lowered your rate because you're online, and that's initially everybody was kind of doing free and lowering their rates, and now we need to charge.
I mean, I did
valuable service.
Yeah, I did the same thing. At first everything was free. And then I have amazing clients, and they gave me feedback and said, hey, Ronnie, this is wonderful, because now, it's more convenient to me. And I'm thinking, wow, this is wonderful. So that means I should be charging a wonderful rate, right? So, and it's worked very well, and they get a high value service, and I'm proud to be able to work with them. And I think they're satisfied with, the outcome.
That's great. But to Mashup's tribute, SCW does these webinars every single week. We've done over 40 webinars since COVID started. March 19th, we were shut down. March 24th was our first webinar. And we did 3 free a week for several months. And then we did 2 free a week. And now we're at the once a week mark, because everybody seems to have caught up with us. But we also, we are this spirited industry that needs to, give back. So I commend you. I think that's great. And Irene, how are you dealing with COVID and training people?
In Iowa, smaller, not necessarily a small state, but the population is definitely not bad. It's interesting because people are not masked in the gym, but they're very cognizant of social distance, physical distancing, and pretty good about cleaning up stuff. The good thing about a lot of the products that are out now is that they are antimicrobial. So a tool like this this is a particular tool. It's kind of a knobby little ball. I mean, you can clean it up. That's no problem, but it's antimicrobial. And these tools are so really inexpensive. I usually encourage the participants, I'll give them an opportunity. And I'm so glad to know that they're 50% off with the SCW Fitness store, because definitely sell them to your clients. This is also, if you have any access to an HR or a wellness program, a perfect sweatless format, because you can get range of motion, you can get stress reduction, you can get meditative qualities in a lunchtime setting in a venue that doesn't take a lot of time, with a piece of equipment that may be bulky, but certainly isn't expensive. So I really try to teach that also as an option for people who are responsible for wellness programs where people frequently don't want to exercise. So I use the foam roller also as kind of a gateway to get them to realize, wow, you're really working your core on the roller. Guess what? You might be able to walk 800 meters or whatever. So
Yeah.
it can be really encouraging.
Oh, I really like that. A gateway, a gateway. Well, I have learned a lot, and I looked at I got a little buzz, like, oh my God, okay, we're out of time by 2 minutes. So you didn't get I know, we've gone over, what a surprise. Do me a favor, give me a really short, Irene, you kind of summed it up, but I think gateway is your kind of closing. Yeah. Yeah, make it a gateway.
I would say yes, and truly, I'm not trying to like get people to do this, but I really think fitness pros who are listening right now and have access to other fitness pros where there are rollers or other instruments for self-myofascial release lying around your club, come to the certification. It's November 8th. It's about 7 hours. We have a lunch break and breaks in there, but you're going to learn how to coach. I'm going to teach you the science of rolling.
Enough. We're going to mash up. You get to say about your certification and when you're offering. I feel like it's a used car. All right, let's go.
I'm sorry.
We love you, Irene.
No, you're great. You're great. So with Mashup, you can come to, ours is November 5th, and it's an all-day certification, and we layer in a lot of science. That way you can understand why we do it the way we do. We talk about the coaching, and this is a format that can be used for everyone. I can teach it all the way from my seniors to stay-at-home moms and businessmen and college athletes, because we have levels for every exercise. But most importantly, because of the way our format is designed, we build that active recovery and that restoration right into it. So it's baked right into it. So they still get all of the benefits, even if we can't get them to actually go to a dedicated mind body class. And, I would think my takeaway, my final statement would be, if we can improve the quality of their movement, we can improve the quality of their lives. And that's ultimately what we're here to do.
Love the education quote. Love that quote. Awesome. You're an artist, Barbie. And Ronnie, please.
So I am presenting at Live Mania on November the 6th. I will be presenting I Restore there. And in that session, you'll get a chance to learn self-myofascial release, mobility exercises and drills, and advanced flexibility training. And my takeaway is, really just do it, right? So recovery is super important. I love what Irene said about it's the magic. That's where the magic happens. And it is not a one size fits all. You have to figure out what works for you as a professional and work with every client as an individual.
Right. Excellent. Well, Mike Lieber, thank you for doing a wonderful job coordinating this. Ronnie, Barbie, and Irene, thank you for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Stay well, stay safe, keep exercising. Roll on.